guys, today is the title you can see. Well, in the video, it says how to make a cliff house. So let's play it. And the outer sides of each of the left and the right hand ones. We then continue making our pillars by doubling up on top of those spruce staircases. There's no particular number in the Y coordinate that you need to raise it up to, but you do need to make sure that it goes pretty high up. When you're adding this on your mountain, you need to work with the terrain, which is what we'll show when we go back to the time lapse. This is just to show you the general structure of each segment of the build, and this will make sense when we go back to the time lapse, and you'll see how this all fits together
this is
in
a shout
one
out
big
to
puzzle. So you can see that I'm bulking up the framework even more than I have done,
TJ
making sure that I've got that lower framework available.
Grand.
To fill in the wall and give you a little more context, we take stone brick and just fill in that area behind the bottom framework. This
You go to here. This is GRIAN.
is to make it look like it's got a big foundation.
The shout out.
Obviously, there is no space for interior, there is one block, so you may just want to fill it in entirely if you want to. This is to make the exterior look nice. This entire build, in fact, is mainly dominated by the exterior. You won't find much work for interior, you may have to dig inside the mountain. On the top side, we're filling in the walls with a choice of dark green clay. However, if green doesn't take your fancy, go for any color you want. You know that I love to make these builds as flexible as possible. So once you've finished placing all of the wall back, it's then time to start with the roof. From the outer pillar, make sure that you bring in an overhang so that it's in front of your very forward framework. It's very important that this happens, otherwise the 3D element of this build doesn't work. If they all are in line,
No, the phone.
won't look quite as good. So we're just going up with a normal staircase block sequence to make sure that we meet in the middle in that very important one block center. So it should look something like that, and then we can fill in that gap behind the staircases with some, making sure that they are all facing in the same vertical direction. Once you've done that, you can then fill in that little gap left with the wall, and you'll see that there is a little bit of space for some interior in those rooms, albeit quite small still, as it's only 3 blocks wide in the top segments. So now we can go and fill in the roof, because we're not going to be filling it in with staircases. We're actually going to be using some stained clay that we're going to detail a bit more on texture, and I'll go over why we texture these blocks a bit later. So we just place them in stacks of 2 that go inwards, and they match the framework at the front.
I want to tell him something. Tell him something.
And that's probably the easiest way to do it, is just to match the framework that you've got, and that it will overlap on that staircase a little bit, but not to worry. You finish, but
Oh, you already did a shout out.
both sides, and it should look a little something like this. It will look fairly plain. What we've got now is just our base framework, and we've filled in the walls, but this is what we're going to be working with. This is the bread and butter of the build. So now we're going to go and texture the bottom. By using some acacia wood and some cracked stone bricks, we can make this just simply look a little more interesting to look at. While it's a bit annoying getting all the extra resources for texturing like this, the effect is really nice and I do recommend doing it. On the front, we're then going to go ahead and do some detailing. I like to keep detailing flexible for you, but this is how me and Pearl went about it in this project, adding some buttons, some trapdoors, and on the front some staircases, and we just mirrored this design over and over again for each bit of the puzzle. So we added some stained clay with some slabs on the top. It's a bit of a different design, and it all tied together with any spaces being filled in with some details. However, this is all flexible. You guys should know how to detail pretty effectively, so you can go for whatever you want. We also altered the shape of the roof a bit with just the overhang, just to kind of tie in the shape towards the rest of the build. It's entirely up to you what you do here, but we are...
That is the end of the video, so goodbye.